I took a stab at housing.
No, it's fine.
So I don't know much about it, but I took the entrepreneurial approach to things, which is, I've heard a bunch of things in this room. I've been a consumer for a long time, and I figured there's certain things that work well and certain things that don't. So one of the things I learned was there doesn't seem to be adequate capacity, because if there was, then potentially we wouldn't have any slums. Also, it seems like pricing is all over the place. There's not enough stuff for the low-cost market. So try to put together some ideas in an ideal eco-city that might exist. First is, perhaps if we create a relative measure rather than an absolute measure, and the city is always a living, growing organism, is able to track how many people live there, and always make sure there's 30% excess capacity. The thought is two things. One is the point you brought up, that when individuals live in a city, they want later that their children and relatives, etc. might also live. So they would feel more comfortable living in a city where they know that capacity is there. Also, if there's always some spare capacity, it takes care of an inflation rate that, or supply-demand imbalance that might lead to excessive pricing. You don't like that?
No, I love it. Who's going to pay for it?
The excessive housing.
Considering that you're at a minus 70 just now in Bombay.
Right.
Minus 65, I'd say. Minus 70?
Yes.
Fair number?
Minus 75. You want to go 130. So add 30 to that minus 30. You want to go double.
So
I'm just saying in principle, that's the catch up.
Sure. So
and second point, that's not what I was worrying about. The worrying about is 100 is okay because there is a buyer.
Yeah.
130, the 30 component, who's going to pay for and keep it as short stock?
Right. So I guess the thought would be that you allow certain developers into the system, and that's one of the criteria restrictions.
Nobody would. Doesn't make any business sense.
But if the opportunity is large enough and only a few people are allowed, then potentially they will stay in the market long enough to recognize this benefit.
I don't think you have that kind of margin. I mean, you have huge margins in the
Yeah.
product.
Yeah.
Lock in 30% of the profitability. Anyway, let's go next.
The next thing was, well, all these buildings need to have certain standards, and we've established that a lot of that exists today, so they should follow those. And from a pricing perspective, I know the free market environment is typically how pricing has been driven currently. It doesn't seem to work, as you indicated, but neither does enforcement, which is the more Western markets, is enforcement, so the slum wouldn't exist there, right? But they do exist, and potentially to avoid letting them exist, can be rightfully driven pricing somehow linked to GDP. Again, this would have to be an artificial environment. It's not something that a free market would permit. But this, theoretically, if it has pricings to standard deviations about it below the GDP, as mean everybody should be able to price it. Some thoughts on how this could be achieved was around creating either tax subsidies or potentially asking the banking system to extend swaps or lower interest rates to help make that pricing imbalance even out. Again, working through the numbers might give a different result, but here's some thoughts from a fresh pair of eyes. Please don't ask any questions. Dinner is almost there. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but again, simplistic thoughts just coming from a fresh set of eyes.
Very difficult topic, right? Incentives for developers, models, and over that. Incentives won't work. Incentives will certainly not.
Well, the thought might be like you're only letting three developers in the city as an example. And if this one shows practices where they are doing some of this possibility.
We are a democracy. You can't stop a builder by saying, no, this is my property, I'm going to say buy it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to sell it at this price. You can't tell you can't sell it.
What's your view on state law?
So,
why are we saying that state would not be responsible for housing?
at some level, that's not done to what I'm saying also. And in the US, I know it has worked well. It's working.
City also created
MIG, HIG, LIG, all this.
So that's another way to execute the same thing.
That's what we're going to do.
Sure, makes sense. Because at least that way they're able to take care of the part of the market that typically the profit mongering capitalists don't want to do, when they're at least getting the socialist results that sometimes they want to see. So I guess this is sort of evening out the system.
Classic capitalism. Just not business from the numbers.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the minute you put numbers to that and values to that, the zeros by co-op.
And this is industry.
No, he's not talking about boundary, he's talking about a principle. I think it's a very valid utopian concept of
And that's why they use a relative number, it's always population. So when the population grows, one sense also.
But if you have the potential to build, let's say you have the potential, why wouldn't that build as I need? Build as you do.
Bring people.
It's like me having 200 kilos of tomato in the next 1 week. It won't work. Make my demand is very unreasonable.
So it's sort of like the money supply. If the government controls the money supply, the government money pump in
Money context, where you have the land and you have you don't need to stop.
You just need enough stock and
You need potential to grow.
Yes.
And waiting for a year is not problem.
I captured the same result. Please move ahead. Okay.
In terms of engineering, design part is also becomes very important when we talk about safety and security. I tried looking at some data related to this, which I could not find for India, but some assumptions I have made in terms of the indicator, that is shown as indicators there. But before that, I considered two kind of broader things in terms of safety and security. One is disaster as it comes in any form, which occurs time to time, and the future threats in terms of the climate change impacts and vulnerability cities has to face. Kind of as to get lost due to disaster and the severe weather events which is happening to life and the property, that can be reduced to say around 50% lesser than the national average. We need to find out what is the national average. Number of road accidents, because I try to be like very idealistic, try to achieve zero, because Pune's comprehensive mobility plan says that it wants to have zero accident, although it looks very difficult to achieve that. Same logic as we are applying for disaster is to the criminal incidences which is happening. That is again 50% of what is there for the national average. Some implementation methods I have suggested here is whatever the existing plan for urban areas, those urban planning and management can incorporate and integrate DRR, that is disaster risk management plans, disaster risk reduction plans, and climate change adaptation plan, and with a time rated. So it can start from now, and in short term, that is 3 to 5 years, they can have some measures built up. Then in medium term, that is 5 to 10 years, they can have some measures. And then in long term, that is up to 30 years. Then designing infrastructures and services, taking into consideration the things which are going to happen in the future because of the unforeseen situations, which is because of the climate threats. Because housing and building is very important if you want to deal with the disaster or any extreme climate event. So building bylaws should be made in a way which can take care of extreme events which can happen in at least 50 years. That has occurrence of 50 years. In terms of criminal related activities, we focus on a few of the things which are happening but which can be improved further. That is 100% lighting can be achieved for the public places, especially bus stops, footpaths, other public places in those areas. Better job for poor, better paying job for the poor. If poor and if want to reduce the inequality, have some kind of equity, then it needs to have better jobs for better paying jobs for the poor and better working conditions for them. Increase equity and also integrating people in the plan. And here we can take help of many processes which are being developed, and those can be so basically we are saying that when we are planning city, it is not only to plan the infrastructure and how it is being constructed, but also to set up some processes how city is going to be governed. Then some things which are also covered in other areas like cycle paths, footpaths for pedestrians, and have a kind of a network with the objective of achieving the goal for zero road accidents. And one can also plan for car-free neighborhoods, neighborhoods which can have open spaces designed. When we are designing green areas, how that can be planned, or public spaces, how those can be planned to have safe and secure life. So I would like to apply integrated and multi-sectoral approach, and approach which is holistic in planning. So and planning should be kind of a continuous process. It should not be one time that is done and then we have to plan. It should be reiterative process where we do planning, we take feedback, and then again we go through the cycle of planning. Urban design is very important here, as I said earlier also, that how we design places, even like our footpath, how we design roads, how we design any street, that very much influences the safety and security. Yeah, so these are a few of the points which you have thought of. Mostly I found that in India, safety and security is not even a separate kind of thing. But I got some reference from outside India where they are planning to have some kind of workshop and course for making cities which are kind of sensitive towards these kind of needs. One point I forgot to mention here that when we are designing it is required to be sensitive towards the spatial needs and also be gender sensitive.
Now, if all this is achieved, all this dream city, is that it? The last slide? So as achieved, won't the migration increase?
Yes, of course, you make the city more attractive to people will come.
I think for migration, we need to check it little bit carefully because I don't know, but I have come across with a study done by professor, demographic professor from JNU, JNU, and that paper, I'm just referring that paper. It says that cities like metros in India, especially Mumbai, Kolkata, and Delhi, is seeing in last decade a decrease in their population growth, decadal growth. So, yeah, and they are comparing for last 10 decades.
Please correct yourself. Decrease in expected rate of growth, not expected decrease in growth.
Remember, rate of increase of growth has reduced.
Rate of increase of
rate.
Rate of increase of growth has reduced. all this.
So,
Than expected.
not actually
Then what was
decrease,
expected?
So
not
it is now going little lesser.
not actually decrease, but it is not increased with the way it was expected. So it was
Slope is
2.76 in the previous decade. Last decade it was 2.77 something, which is not
Other cities which are emerging, which are equally given.
Yeah, and it also says that number of cities has increased, and why it shows that population increase in increase in urban population because of change in census analysis also, because now they are covering larger areas as municipalities are concerned. Also, there is increase in number of cities in each class, and that increase is more in medium level cities. So medium level cities has increased from 300 something to 570. Same is happening for small level cities. Their number are increasing and they are getting more urbanized. And also peri-urban areas are being increased. So I think we need to
Unfortunately, classification in these cities is based on population. In the classification, that means doesn't mean cities are not increased. The population has increased, that's why they have come into this category.
but
See,
population,
classification of city is based on population. Yeah.
yeah, but mostly they are saying that population has increased because the limits of municipality. Because earlier they used to take shorter.
Yes, number of villages,
So number of
population
villages is being amalgamated, and new city centers have come up. And that is adding up to the whole population of India. I think it needs to analyze that kind of report
Why?
in a better way to how we can take learnings from that.
For example, Pune, now 26 new villages are coming up. So population will go up. So that doesn't mean,
So those are land bank will go up, population will technically reduce.
per average, per
kilometers,
unit area, per unit area.
Per square kilometer.
Density, population density will reduce.
Density will reduce. So end of the day, you are expanding your city by say 5 kilometers or 12 square kilometers, and you are getting in only say 20 villages of maybe 1,000 people. Density will dramatically go. So again, gives you carrying capacity.
Earlier, what I have learned, like earlier it was said that to plan cities which is with a zoning kind of concept. Now it is being said that to plan cities with a mixed use, which our cities already are, and we need not kind of bifurcate zones. It's good to have cities because that is more organic, I think.
It's not like Johannesburg. Johannesburg, no slums are allowed in the city. No slums are allowed in the city.
Migration
Slums are outside the city. So people have to come all the way to work in the city.
No, we don't want this domestic help staying outside because they don't come on time. That's the problem. That's why we are completely tolerant and allow slums to come around our buildings.
And they have mentioned 4 factors for increasing urban population. One is by own population growth, that is biological population growth. One is migration, of course. Another 2 are like this increase in the areas and those kind of things.
Next, let's go.
Green topic. So I'm here again. Green cover is basically something which is not the wood cover. It's ground cover which is covering the ground or the shrubs, and it's making the complete soil green. So it's without woodlands. It's not the canopy cover. It's basically the green cover. So
Green cover can be on the wall and on the rooftop.
but right now we are talking about the percentage of the green cover in the city level, like because of which we will not be able to consider the green cover on the walls or verticals or on the rooftops. So here we are considering the percentage of the green cover in the cities. Just while reading through few write-ups, I just realized that since past few years, green cover has decreased a lot. There are different kind of analysis, the different kind of data that are available for different countries, different regions in India. So to be very honest, I could not come to the right conclusion for which place, and they are anyways giving the generic solution. So I just thought that we can discuss a prototype kind of thing and some parameters of increasing the green covers and some solutions which we can propose to have the green covers, maximize the green cover. And there is no debate about it that as much as we can maximize the green cover, which is going to be a positive impact for any city. So coming to the points where we just want to, wherein green cover, how green cover is going to help you in economically, ecologically and psychologically. So first thing, it's going to increase the health aspects because of the increasing oxygen and change in the microclimate, and then it helps in reducing the soil erosion. Then it holds more water because of the green cover. The soil area is increased, so because of which overall ecology, overall ground coverage increases. So we reduce the paved areas and increase the green cover. That will help us get a better climate, better ecology, better groundwater. So these are the aspects, and you get more open spaces, city level open spaces. So psychologically, you get spaces which are basically breathers for the cities, hard cities, which are softer areas for the cities. And that's why we thought that we can come up with some policies which will basically support increasing the green cover. First is a city level decision should be taken that what should be the percentage of green cover, and for that the land use master plan has to be prepared, and then we can divide the exact percentage. But again, while going through lots of data, I could realize that UK and Germany, these kind of countries have more than 20 to 30% of green cover in the city. So ideally, we should at least try to achieve 20% of the green cover in the city. Then ensuring that all the open spaces should have green covers rather than leaving them barren or with the hardscapes. So we should increase that green cover and it should be maintained. Then third important point, which we thought that there are lots of open barren areas or leftover areas in the city. So which could be again covered into with the greens, so that we again by minute percentage, but we will increase the green covers. We will add on some percentage of greens, and then we can have some norms given for the private developers or the developments or townships or institutes or anything. So we should have norms given for which are already there, of course. But we should strengthen those norms, and maybe if we can increase, as per the policy, we can increase those percentage of greens, considering the overall city level impact which is going to be there because of increased green cover. And we should be making a policy level, proposing a policy level decision that every private development that is coming up should have this much percentage of green cover in the development. So that's it.
Is 20% public green or private green? Both.
Total.
How much private green?
That is something, it would again change as per the city level master plan, that's what my understanding. Because if a city like Pune, it's institutional city, and lots of universities, lots of institutional lands are there. You can see that institute should have 40% of land.
Would the mangroves in Bombay considered as part of green cover?
Yes, because mangroves are 3 stories of plants. They are in upper stories trees and even the ground stories are
Mangroves in Mumbai are under protected forest.
Would that be considered as part of the green cover in Bombay?
Yes.
Then people might say that we already have 20%. So we did not plant.
Those are under protected.
But 20% is something, it's not
Is there a law that minimum percent of green cover should be so much? Nationally, there is a norm that the overall in India we should have 35% at the green.
Reserve forest area, close to reserve forest area, that is what I know about, but I am not too sure about this 35%. But 30% land has to be kept natural in any development.
In
India.
So I think
no, but what is in cities?
Bombay Island City, what is the 1%?
1%.
Which is the 1%?
No. That is open space. That's not green cover. The definition of green cover, I'd say, is substantially less. Because if you classify green cover as green, green ground cover.
Green ground cover. It's
Green
not
ground
capital.
cover. So a Maidan, for example, is not considered green ground cover.
You need to have the greens on top of it.
Say open space is just not considered open spaces and
0.4 kilometers.
So mangroves are not covered under green cover because I think they are under mud flats. Those are kind of wetlands.
so they are not part of the city.
They are not part of the
City map, they are not part of the city. I think they are.
They are part of cities.
They are under forest type. They are under farmland, but they are special, under mud flats. Those are
No,
the
that is the land use classification could be different. But whether that will be considered under green cover or not.
That is ideally should be.
In calculating green cover of a city.
You can check in your
I think it is. It has to be.
It has to be, that's what I would
For the simple reason that the growth of Bombay city has surrounded, let's say, Borivali.
think. That's what I would think.
Now,
Porbandar,
the
Borivali.
Sanjay Gandhi National Park is 104 square kilometers of pure dense forest. There's no other city in the world which has 104 square kilometers slum in the middle of in the city. The problem is not with the percentage. I have a problem with the fact that the rest of it is so densely populated that hardly 1% of that would ever go into Borivali to get advantage of the greens. It is, for instance, if you have only one mega school in a city which is 10 population.
It is better Vijay, they don't go to Borivali.
Exactly. So when you are talking about green cover, if it's green cover where public access is open and easy, then that it should be counted as a part of greens.
Otherwise,
If it
area
is not open access, then it should not be. So these are categories. Otherwise, Mumbai
That's why they ask whether it is private green cover or private.
I personally feel that private green cover or public green cover, that is basically going to affect your other things also, like your ecology, your water, groundwater distribution. So that is going to affect.
Green cover for ecological and green cover for as a public ability. Civic ability. So these are two different things. Both are equally important.
Correct. So combinedly it should have some percentage which should be dedicated for the green cover.
Where is Roshni?
See, there's also another problem with these forests which are
They are
dedicated.
relevant to her.
The problem about green cover is when it's restricted or protected forest is that once it is surrounded so much with a city like Mumbai, it is not allowed to perform ecological functions. See, in the case of Borivali forest, it will normally have provided a whole series of succession of services to the city. Now, since it's been channelized into one little thing and now will probably put in the pipeline, the functions which a normal forest can or does perform have been cordoned off, and that's why it is unable to provide, and that's why it should not be really including it in the green cover. Only if you allow the forest to perform its, deliver its services, then it is of use to the society, not otherwise. So, merely having a protected forest, national park in the middle.
But in Mumbai, that is another problem, which is like linear development, and the forest is like, this is the development and forest is here. So that is another thing, like Pune, you have all across, you have some hills, you have in between pockets of trees.
Exactly.
So that is going to...
Exactly. So, you compare it with Pune, you will know that there are small patches and all of them have public access. So even though the percentage is smaller, civic access to that amenity is much larger.
But even for those amenities,
That's
what is
the
happening
reason
to
why a
us-
large number of Bombays have bought vacant flats in Pune.
Exactly,
No, but-
next to these greens. So
But even Pune.
livability changes not. So otherwise, there would have been an influx of population in Mumbai, even for forests, but it's not happening because they are not allowed to grow. In the case of Pune, it is possible. In the case of Nashik, it has happened. So one has to look at what services it provides because those are actually ecosystems.
And even that is important for the disaster management. The
And
open
along with
spaces require that
that,
time.
important thing is that with these open spaces also in Pune or Nasik or any other cities like Nagpur, I personally feel now what is happening because these spaces are becoming public spaces, the green cover is going because these spaces have trees. They have the canopy cover, but they don't have green cover because lots of plazas, like even I can relate to Sarasbag. They have like wide walkways. So I personally feel the garden is garden maybe of 60%, 40% is being eaten up with the hardscapes. So that's again not a green cover actually. It's an open space. City level open space. So we have the canopy cover there, but we don't have a green cover, which is basically exposing the soil.
I mean, every city must have a city forests and
Nature trails or forest or something.
Let us build the cities in the forest.
There's one area.
there is a proposal cleared by Chief Minister, given to have a 4,000 acre township in Munshi here.
Okay. Let us do it all of us.
It's given clearance. Clearance has been given. And luckily, the concerned developer came to our office to make a contour map for this, and we refused to do that. Is it no?
There's one area which I would like everybody to consider, just to put it on the table. We were just talking about it the other day. There are examples in India of urban centers collapsing as a result of non-recognition of ecological limitations or the variables which we are talking about. Just as we were talking about, you can't increase just one transportation thing. In Gurgaon, for example, only housing has been increased and it's become a ghost town. So if you increase carrying capacity only in one direction, there is a sure shot method of leading to collapse of an urban center. So let's take that also into account when we are saying an ecosystem or an ecologically sustainable city. Unless it's multidimensionally increasing its carrying capacity, it can and will collapse. And there are collapse cities. So one doesn't have to go back to Mesopotamia to find out why cities collapsed. We have examples in India where cities are in fact collapsing.
Coming back to what Mahesh had said, great.
It will collapse. So in the discussion about what is ideally necessary in order to make them ecologically or sustainably desirable to stay, one has to put in these as threshold parameters to say nothing beyond that, irrespective of all other socio-political considerations. Because otherwise it will lead to the collapse of the whole system and people will have to
Where we know, we put this restriction.
Sorry?
And remember, we had done a lot of deliberations regarding Mahesh. The moment you restrict carrying capacity, including inflow of tourists in summer, prices go up.
Prices go up enormously.
Then this is social injustice.
It is just injustice, but then if you allow all that, you will be destroying the water tower of the entire Krishna basin. So you have the choice between allowing socio-political pressures or economic pressures to take over, or to save the only single unique water tower which supplies water to the whole of Krishna basin. So I mean, these are very hard choices.
What happened to the proposal of Nilambaree?
Lima escaped.
New operation.
Huh?
What happened with new operation?
No, there is nothing on the anvil at the moment.
We've been talking about it for the last 20 years.
So that's all one eco-sensitive zone.
No, it was always an eco-sensitive zone and they were trying to get a new relationship or a new economic.
Safety and security. Less than net. There is one last topic that we covered, that is health and medical. What happened in 2012 is WHO had a study, and they said that there are 75 countries in the world who face crisis when it comes to human resource management in health. That means the number of doctors and healthcare providers are less in 75 countries, out of which about 52nd is the India's number. India ranks 52nd when it comes to crisis in healthcare providers. What WHO also says is that the ideal ratio of patient to doctor is 1 doctor per 1,000 patients and 1 doctor per 1,000 people, not patients, people, and 5 beds per 1,000 people is the ideal ratio. What we have in India is 1 doctor per 2,000 people. That means it is half, or it has to be doubled the capacity. This is the basic problem that we face. So what is the solution for it, or what are the in planning measures? What we can do is we can increase the number of colleges that provide healthcare facilities, or train people to provide healthcare facilities like doctors and nurses. The second most important thing we can do is we can prevent the migration of these existing healthcare providers from our country to some other places. And finally, we can educate the masses regarding what are the best measures, or what are the practices which could lead to a healthy living lifestyle. So that is all about health that we could cover for today. It is to be continued.
I must just give a disclaimer, a very brief disclaimer on everybody's behalf. The disclaimer is important because when everybody started looking at eco-cities, it became a discussion about one huge elephant with 10 of us, blind people trying to look at it from various angles. As a consequence, we could not arrive at 2 or 3 key indices which would cover the whole thing. It is not possible to do it in a short period of time. However, what we have got here today are perceptions from different angles which are just as important. It is important sometimes to arrive at a crystallized solution. It's also important to find, also important to listen to and appreciate perceptions, because that's what reality is all about. If you extend this to 100,000 people, you are again going to get 10 different perceptions. You will not arrive at it. Therefore, it's my submission that as we moved from materials to buildings, it became more and more vague, and that's how it is. That's the reality. So it is not as if this group was confused and the first group was extremely clear and concrete. That is the nature of the 3 topics that we have chosen. And I'm trying to say that so that we don't go back with an impression that when it comes to material, clarity is possible. When it comes to building, clarity is possible. When you look at the cities, no clarity is possible. This is not the case. This is a more complex, dynamic situation that we're looking at. And we try to achieve optimality as you go further. This was the only major disclaimer I wanted to make. In spite of being totally incompetent in terms of being able to capture it into one brilliant punchline. Thank you.
That's not possible.
If you say so.
In fact, the ideal city should have all these things.
Exactly.
So I think we appreciate that.
So all the three teams then next. So and
I just have nobody talked about governance at all. And I think that's very important. That's probably one of the most important things that you should look at. As a
governance and ungovernance.
Well,
Good governance.
There was one more important point which I think that there was master plan, land and master plan.
No,
But
I
it's
think,
so
I think
big.
everybody has referred to planning and zoning and non-zoning and multi-use and I think the master plan thing is a small component. I'm saying without a leader and without governance, I think.
Rather than I'll give you an anecdote for Pune. 1886 or 85, I'm not very sure. The first visitor from Pune district was written. If you see the descriptions during those periods of Pune, the kind of language and the kind of concerns that everybody had are exactly the same as they are today.
Absolutely.
That's one. Second, the British governed in their own so-called good governance way. Then we had a hiatus for about 3 decades. Then we have had a democratic Pune corporator governance model with elections taking place. The concerns and the nature of description of those has remained the same. So I would say that now if you look at the level of governance in Maharashtra, the governance with the same laws, you have the same laws, same kind of politicians, same kind of society, more or less same environmental factors, and yet governance, nature of governance in Mumbai, even Pune, which is just 100 kilometers away, take Nagpur, take Bhandara and take Nasik, and you will find huge differences. These are as the result of the cultural milieu that exists in that area. The historical, for instance, Nagpur will be governed the way it is because since the Nizam days they've had a certain culture. So for them, good governance means not going to office before 11:30 in the morning. Now, this is something which cannot be attitudinally changed, or there is no design or technology that can change that. These are good. See, for instance, when we say my great-grandfather, like Mr. great-grandfather, also used to say, "Hamare time." That means during the British period there was good governance. So if they wanted to implement a law, they implemented a law, enforced it. But that's where it stopped. What they were supposed to do in terms of developmental activities, social mobilization, welfare state activities, none of that happened. But they were wise. The British never promised it, so they never broke it. In our case, we make huge number of promises and break all of them. That makes it bad governance. The number of things that are happening now are the same as the number of things happening 100 years ago. Except that time they didn't promise the moon. Promised what they could deliver and they delivered. That's why we still call that good governance and this is bad governance. So your point is well taken. What it goes on to is, therefore, what is the governance model that we can suggest for an eco-city? Now the governance model emerges out of the existing law and the bottom-up engagement we were talking about. So governance is not about the bureaucrats and corporators. It is how much people demand out of them. So if there is a bottom-up engagement in civic activities, they will get the kind of governance that they ask for. Since in Pune or Mumbai, people, during the elections for instance, nobody draws up the local issues which are more important than the national issues. Everybody is talking national. Even though, so there was no local civic engagement, and I think without that, good governance is not possible. Because who's asking for good governance? I'll just give you one example. I mentioned that this bounty which we get for water tax has for 100 years had a very fine print at the back saying, by law, mandatory. There was a discussion a little earlier, at what cost do we recover water which is from the wastewater. It is not about how many options do we have and if it's expensive we don't do it. No. By law it is mandatory that we spend 2 out of 3 paise for disposal. It is not for recovery of water. It is for disposal. That means if you have created shit, then before you put it into the river you better clean it. So it's a legal responsibility. It is recovery of water is a spin-off. So therefore, you end up with a situation saying, look, Since you have to do it anyway, it's a zero option situation by law, then you use the least cost technology, ecologically the most beneficial, irrespective of how much it costs, because it gives you a product or gives you water which has zero substitute. There is nothing else like in the case of materials. My British friend here, Rising Tower Wala was saying, you have 20 options for bricks. For water there is no option, therefore no matter what it costs. If it's mandatory that you have to clean up the sewage, you have to clean up, full stop. So basics are basics, and if we allow them to interfere in governance by saying political decisions can change even law and stop us from implementing a national legislation which will be around for so many decades, then we are deviating from what has to be done irrespective of what law, to what is ecologically or financially possible or financially doable. It's not a matter of choice in this case, it's a matter of compulsion. Next.
I think we should, this iPad, we should